I'm here today with my mom, Magdalena M.V, and we're going to be talking about mindfulness. So would you like to say something about yourself and how you're acquainted with mindfulness?
So I am by profession a lawyer, a Canadian barrister. I've been practicing law for the last 20 years, mostly in-house. About 5 years ago, I came across mindfulness. I started reading a lot of books and decided that this is something that I needed in my life. About 2 years ago, I decided that it wasn't enough just to make it a part of my life, but this is something that's actually important for other people to practice. I've read many studies that show mindfulness being very beneficial to your health and well-being. So I created now a company. I am the CEO and founder of THV.GmbH. It's a company focusing on overall wellness with a holistic approach to wellness. It's geared towards C-level executives. And one of the aspects in order to achieve this holistic wellness for C-level very stressed executives is to be very mindful of what they have, what they would like to have, and what needs to change.
Great. So in simple words, how would you describe mindfulness?
In the most simple words, mindfulness is basically being very present in the here and the now.
Okay. Would you say it is important to practice mindfulness, especially to a teenage audience?
I think it's critically important to be aware of mindfulness and to practice it for everybody. A person who is mindful is much more happier, much more fulfilled, much more successful, much more relaxed. A person is able to deal with setbacks easier because they are mindfully aware of their surroundings. So yes, it is critical for everybody. Why would it be important for teenagers? I actually believe that it is something that should be taught in schools. One of the people that I spoke to about mindfulness is Jeremy House. He's now a principal of an international school in Vienna. And he's introducing mindfulness within the school system. I highly agree with him on this because I know from a perspective that if I have known about mindfulness when I was in school, I would have been able to achieve good results much better, much faster, and with much less stress, and at the same time to remain happy and balanced.
People often say that teenagers are mostly affected by mindfulness. Would you say that is the case?
Yes, in my case, with my daughter being the main culprit, I would say that teenagers are mindless. It was a very nice surprise when I heard that Betty wants to do a project on mindfulness because I have been trying to instill in her that this is, to be mindful is something not just important and something that Mama is now developing into a business, but something that helps you to achieve a greater balance and happiness and success in your life. So for a teenager, from what I've noticed, teenagers are so occupied with technology especially that they don't notice life around them. And this creates mindlessness because they're sort of functioning, but on a very autopilot level. And I have many examples where Betty had full conversations with me, logical conversations, at the end of which she was not aware what we've discussed because she was absolutely mindless during that conversation. So for teenagers, yes, because this is a time in their life when everything is changing, and if a teenager would have at least 10% of mindfulness, I think overall this would work towards creating a very balanced and happy and successful adult.
Yeah, it seems like mindfulness is very important to teenagers. However, many teenagers don't really find this topic interesting, or they don't feel motivated to actually practice it. Why do you think that is? Do you think that's true?
Well, what did you think when I first talked to you about mindfulness and I said that you're mindless? What was your reaction?
Well, I didn't really understand what it was at that point. I didn't think it was that important.
So what changed?
Well, first of all, you're drilling it into my brain many times. But also now I started researching it and I realized how it's actually much easier than it seems, and it really is important, and I can benefit from it a lot.
Yeah, so of course, I remember whenever I used to speak to you about mindfulness, you had your normal reaction. Yeah, okay, whatever, chill, mama. So I'm not an expert, and I this is not what I'm focusing on because I'm not familiar with how to educate teenagers, but I am familiar with management teams, with C-level executives, and I know what they need, what they lack, and what would be beneficial to them. So I can understand that for a teenager, this is a boring topic. I'm not quite sure how to broach it with them at this moment. I would suggest if you would find the possibility to speak with Mr. House, since he is a teacher and now a principal of a school, and he actually did his PhD or a doctorate in mindfulness, educational mindfulness, that he would be the expert to tell you what and how to broach this subject with teenagers. Because the only reason I succeeded with you was with the fact that I was repeating it endlessly, but I don't think that's the approach, because unless you have a mother like me, this would not be a subject that a normal teenager would accept. So here, Betty, you need to find a creative way on how this subject can be given to teenagers, something simple, easy, yeah, so focusing on here and now, but how you develop this, I don't know.
All right. So what are some simple, I guess, ways or techniques that anyone can practice mindfulness in day-to-day life?
Most of it is about focus. So the basic thing is try to notice when your mind starts to wander. And this most commonly is in places when you're standing in line, or where you're driving a car or riding a bus, or sort of sitting around being bored, waiting at the office of the orthodontist to be called in. And this is a time where you've got nothing specific to do, and then your mind just wanders and it's mindless. So at that moment, try to focus on something, no matter how small. If you are driving in a car, try to notice things, specific things outside the window, and count them. How many motorcycles do I see? If you are on a bus, try to see something which you haven't seen before. If you're waiting in a orthodontist office to be seen by the dentist, maybe try to recall something which is very specific, so that your mind is occupied with focusing on something and not just sitting mindlessly. So this is the simplest thing that you can do. There's obviously mindfulness and meditation are very much connected. So practicing meditation helps because it stills the mind. Then you have yoga that also helps. Doing sports and focusing on sports, it's proven scientifically that the best sportsmen really focus and sort of visualize what they do. This is also a sense of mindfulness, because you are very mindful of what you are doing, thinking, and connecting all your physical, mental, emotional parts to achieve great results. So it's really just being very present in the here and the now.
Okay. So as a part of my project, I'm also doing an online travelogue in which I document my travels in hopes to prove to my audience that by being mindful, traveling can be so much more interesting and educational. Can you think of any ways that one can practice mindfulness while traveling?
Yes. Then here, I think that the biggest principle would be focus on the journey and not on the destination. So if you're traveling anywhere and you just think, okay, here I am in Warsaw and I go to Spain, so until I go to Spain, there's nothing exciting happening in between Warsaw and Spain because my destination is Spain. And then you don't even notice all the things that could have been interesting or would have made you happy because you're mindless. You're just sort of, okay, I have to travel this distance and I just have to have it done. And as soon as I'm in Spain, the fun will begin. This is when I will be happy. And you've basically wasted half a day while you were traveling on mindless existence. So focus on the journey and then try to see things which you haven't seen before, or play a game. I sometimes play this game where you're sitting at the airport and you observe a person and you look at this person and you try to imagine a story. Where are they from? Where are they going to? Do they have a family? What would be their occupation? Are they happy? Are they sad? So sort of try to make a little guessing game. And this is even more fun if you're traveling with somebody else, because you can both pick a person and they say, okay, well, let's look at this person. And then we tell each other a story who we think this person is. If this is a mindful approach, it will be fun and it will teach you long term how you can understand better a person, not even knowing them, just by observing the way they're dressed, the way they talk, the way they walk, the way they sit, what is exactly happening inside of them.
So finally, what would you tell a person who is maybe trying to get into mindfulness or hasn't yet to motivate them to start practicing mindfulness?
Well, it depends on the person, depends what's important to a person. If you have a person that's a high achiever, then I would focus on the mindfulness aspect, which is scientifically proven increases your success and your achievement level and good results. Yeah, because you are focused, you're visualizing, so you have a better marks in school, or you do better at a job. If it's a person that wants to try something new, then you can talk to them about how mindfulness will open your mind to experiencing the life differently. Because when you're mindful, you find happiness in little things. You notice things which you haven't noticed before, and suddenly the world is so much more colorful and interesting than before. So you have to, I think, to motivate a person about mindfulness, you have to know more about their interest and their way of life. That's why for me it's easier to focus on these highly stressed, workaholic, C-level executives, because I've been there, I've done it, and I know what they need and what they're lacking and what they're not noticing in their life, because they're so busy running in their career. So for me, this is what I know. This is what I'm focusing on. But still, even within that C-level executive sphere, what we do within THV company is we focus on the individual, because that's one aspect of you, that you have a certain profession and you still have your aspect of your emotional, physical, spiritual background, which makes you a different person. So it has to be really tailored to each person if you really want mindfulness to be something that they believe in and practice, and which is a part of their daily living.
I think that's all. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Good luck.